Welcome to Anchored Not Anxious. This is where you gain a deep belief your life matters to God and discover the anchoring practices to manage anxiety and worry. I'm Terry Hutchinson, your host. In this episode, I'm taking us on a journey to the Bible land to meet the widow at Zarephath. This is a thought-provoking story of trust over despair. The story is found in 1 Kings chapter 17. The widow's story begins somberly. She is the sole provider for herself and her son. A 3-year famine makes it impossible to get food. Pragmatic preparations lead her to plan a last supper for herself and the boy. As she gathers sticks for her last meal, what an inconvenience to have Elijah the prophet arrive at her home asking for a drink of water. As she turns to get it, the prophet asks for bread as well. The widow says to Elijah, "As the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. I'm making a meal for myself and my son. We will eat this last meal and await death." Elijah ignores the widow's remark of a last meal. He tells her, "Fear not, and take the last of the flour and oil. Make a cake first for me, and then for you and your son. God will replenish the oil and flour." The widow makes the cake for him, and then prepares a cake for herself and her son. I have a question. Why did she do it? Why did the widow use the last of what she had to make a cake for Elijah first? She said it herself. There was only flour and oil for 2 cakes, not 3. The famine in the land dictated no future, only death. The widow's plan for a last meal indicates she wasn't waiting for a God to interrupt, act, or show up. Yet, making the cake for Elijah first looks like an act of trust. What reignited the widow's trust and hope, moving her to mix the last of the flour and oil? Perhaps when Elijah told her not to fear because God would resupply the flour and oil. Maybe, but it was a gamble trusting Elijah and his God. Yet, her trust resulted in God refilling the jug and jar with oil and flour, and maybe replenishing her hope of a future. God interrupted, and He gave her a future she could not imagine. Her plan was not God's plan. Everything changed when she responded to God with trust. As a result, she saw possibilities she couldn't see before. While the story tells God showed up in the widow's life, will He show up in yours? Maybe you feel God didn't see you or hear you in your need. There are so many unanswered questions when adversity strikes us or those we love. Where is God? Why this and not that? In Hebrews 11:1, it says, "Faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see." Faith or trust is being sure and certain God's love and motives are for us, not against us. Even still, faith feels impossible at times. God knows unanswered requests, unresolved worries, devastating, life-changing events can make us bitter, angry, and hopeless. Remaining certain of His loving motives becomes a struggle. Like the widow, when the difficult and hard times come, we face a choice. Will we trust God's motives and intentions no matter what happens? Will we trust in His integrity and character as one who cares deeply for us? In the course of my life, when tested by unwelcome circumstances, I have taken 2 roads. trusting God and not trusting God. By not trusting God, I walked into bitterness, jealousy, and loneliness. With trust and looking for God in the situation, I survived the suffering far better than I did by not trusting Him. He walked me through the hardships and the hurt. The widow did not know God would show up, but He did. God interrupted, and He gave her a future she could not imagine. Her plan was not God's plan, and everything changed when she responded to God with trust. An act of trust renewed her hope. Our plan is not always God's plan, yet He is showing up. Can you see it? Can you perceive it? In trust, pour out your heart to God. Be open to how, when, and where He is showing up, or how He has shown up in your situation. Don't lose hope. You are God's beloved. I have a free Bible Verses for Contemplation worksheet on the podcast website. These highlight the great love God has for you. Thank you for listening. Until next time.